The Doctor. In the TARDIS. Next stop, everywhere.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again. No Jesse, no Karen, but thankfully, we have a returning special guest companion this time. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, Christine Peruski.
Hello, everyone.
Yay. Yeah.
I'm happy to be back in the TARDIS.
The sound of one hand clapping. Because it's just me, and you. But yeah, so welcome back, Christine. For those who don't know, and shame on you if you don't, Christine joined us like almost a year ago now, so she's been gone far too long. But thankfully, she volunteered to come back. And previously, yeah, she talked the Shakespeare Code with us.
Excellent episode.
And now she's back to talk another David Tennant story, Planet of the Dead, here at episode 133. So I'm noticing a trend. So yeah, let's see. So we have Shakespeare Code, Planet of the Dead. You seem to be quite the David Tennant fan.
Well, I don't actually have a lot of favorite episodes. There are ones that I dislike,
right.
And so I left the options up to you, and you gave me a little list, and I was like, ooh, I could talk that one.
Okay.
And it just happened to be another Tennant one.
It's just
really
funny how that worked out.
I like Smith as well, and Whittaker's been awesome.
Right.
Definitely...
we've been big fans here on Next Stop about Jodie. We love her.
Mm-hmm. So, honestly, it's just a coincidence. It's just the options I was given, and, well, I liked this little pairing in this episode.
Yes. That's one of the things, obviously, we're going to talk about as we get into the discussion. The great chemistry between David Tennant and Michelle Ryan in this one. As Michelle Ryan's Lady Christina de Souza, the companion that never was, sadly.
Yeah, it's very sad.
I thought she would have been a great companion.
I think a lot of people thought so. She
almost became, she was rumored to become Matt Smith's companion. Back when, Smith was announced, and that this was before Karen Gillan, obviously, was announced as Amy Pond. So this is, obviously the British tabloids, they speculate all the time, and the bookies get involved. But, it just seemed like, that she was a really interesting character, and I can't wait to talk about her with you.
Yeah, I mean, I would... Even if she didn't come back as a solid companion, it'd be nice to see her as a recurring character like River Song was for a while.
Right.
That would work for me too.
Well, that's good. So you've been enjoying the Jodie Whittaker era. What's your favorite?
Absolutely.
What was your favorite story of her first season? Do you remember? You don't have to remember the title if it doesn't come to you.
You love asking me about favorites. I'm very, very bad with favorites, but
that's okay. That's okay. Which one? How about this? Which of them did you like? How's that?
Well, of course, I very much liked Rosa. Mm-hmm. I mean, who didn't like Rosa? That was one I ended up having to share with someone who I had only shared one other Doctor Who episode with. That I found myself someone who is just completely geek deprived, and I've got so much to show them, and
right.
Doctor Who is just too much to bite off right now, so it was like, here, let's watch this one episode. And then when Rosa aired, I was like, oh my god, you have to watch this episode.
So was that a good entry point, or at least a good, for the non-fan?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good standalone. I say all you really need is a nice general idea of what Doctor Who is.
Right.
that one works. Of course, Blink always works.
Right.
And it was a great little thriller movie by itself. And another episode I really liked of this past season was Demons of the Punjab.
Yes, we did.
And
My wife Lori and I just watched that this morning. Believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. It's rather educational.
Yes.
Us Americans don't know any of that stuff.
No, we're never taught anything about world history like that. As far as you know, especially like Indian history. We don't get anything practically about Indian history.
No.
And it was just really
Indian
fascinating.
Culture is a lot more integrated with British culture than it is over in America. So I loved the episode. It was a great explanation of things that happened over there not too long ago, really,
right,
in the grand scheme of things. So, and it was well written, I think.
That's good. So you're definitely looking forward to the long wait for 2020 for the next series 12.
Well, I can't say I'm looking forward to the long wait, but
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the end of the wait.
Right. Yes. That's a much better phrasing than what I had. But yeah, so that you just, I mean, it's a little frustrating because just when Jodie's she starts to settle in, and things, the newness wears off, and then you kind of get into the groove, and then we just had a resolution at the new year, and that was really good, and you were like, okay, give me more, and now we have to wait. So it's a little frustrating, but
yeah, resolution was also really good. It was just taking a new spin on a classic monster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I didn't see it coming.
So you were completely
creepy squid monster.
So you didn't know there was a Dalek.
No, I did not see that coming. I don't go searching online for information and
Spoilers,
stuff. I just I like to casually watch, and if I'm doing a podcast, that's when I'll start digging into stuff. But just look, a new Doctor Who episode on the DVR, yay!
That's good. That means you're that's actually that works great because you're actually surprised, which I think a lot of fans would be a lot better off if that was the case.
Yeah, I think it's best to watch the episode without any prior knowledge, like the way it's meant to be watched, the way the writers and the whole crew expects a viewer to be seeing it, just fresh, like as presented, not spoiler alert, this is coming up, here's some shots of the mysterious monster. Ooh, no, not mysterious anymore.
Nope. But I thought they did a really good job with that, and I love the sense of dread and horror with that as well. I just thought it was a great fresh take. But we're not going to talk about Resolution. We're talking Planet of the Dead anymore, anyway. But I did want to kind of catch up because it's been a year, and so I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Jodie Whittaker's, the new era, and what you thought. So that's cool. So let's talk Planet of the Dead. This was written by Russell T. Davies and Gareth Roberts, who, if you've noticed, is actually one of the writers of the Shakespeare Code. So
I did not know. So
that was a very interesting connection that just happened to work out, totally not planned. But nope. But he also wrote, Gareth Roberts also wrote some other great episodes. Unicorn and the Wasp. That was the Agatha Christie episode.
That's a fun one, yes.
The Lodger. Closing Time, with James Corden. Those two.
I'm better with storylines.
During the Matt Smith era where, the 11th Doctor goes to live in a flat.
Yes.
That one.
Yes.
With Craig. Yes. Craig Owens. So those were really good. This was directed by James Strong and is generally considered to be the 200th story, although that's open to debate because of, whether there was the incomplete story Shada, which has just recently been completed in animation during the Tom Baker era. And
I think I did catch that one.
And whether the last Colin Baker's, last four stories, The Trial of the Time Lord, are actually four separate stories or just one long storyline. So that's kind of open to fan debate. With people with really not like the people in dire need of a better hobby, I think, or at least more something more to
Yes.
do than to sit around going, well, I don't know, I don't know about all these episodes. Like what is this a 200 story? Is that the 200 story? No, no. So I'm
I
not
mean,
I'm not in the
it,
debate.
it the fact that they had to make it confusing with the classic stuff,
Hmm.
it's not episodes, it's stories, which is a collection of episodes, and each one varies on how many episodes is contained in a story. And
Right.
oh my God, why can't we just make it like a normal show, at least in that respect?
But then it wouldn't be Doctor Who if it was normal, right? It's the whole
Yeah,
weirdness thing. That's why we love it, the eccentricity of it. Uh,
sure,
yeah, why not? It sounds good. But
sure.
generally, this is considered the 200 story, and this was the 2009 Easter special that aired on April 11th, 2009, starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. No companion because, hey, uh, he just Tennant decided, well, instead of doing a full last season, I'm just going to do some specials here and there, and
Yeah, that
no,
was annoying.
it was annoying,
Speaking of making things confusing, finding this episode on IMDb is another pain.
right? Yeah,
It actually shows up after the last Whitaker episode. It's so weird.
well, IMDb isn't exactly the perfect resource,
Or
unfortunately.
something. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's so weird.
yeah, it's a little
Yes.
confusing. So
So I had to do a Google search for the IMDb page. It was confusing.
you probably could have found it through the Wikipedia
Mm.
entry. If you go to Wikipedia, they at the bottom they have IMDb entries.
Aha.
So there's your secret right there.
And
So,
also finding it on Amazon Prime, it's confusing because
oh,
it's not in the Doctor Who seasons. It's like a
it's
totally
it's the
separate show.
it's the specials. Yeah, exactly. It's the so yeah. So this is really like it's a non-season this story.
Hmm.
And as a result, yeah, it does kind of get lost in the shuffle, especially it doesn't fit neatly into the Netflix, Amazon classifications
Yeah.
unless they like extend the normal season, like say, series four, and then they'll tack on the specials at the end of that or what have you. It's a little weird, I know, but what are you gonna do? I
Scream
know.
into my pillow.
Yeah, like inward screaming. Arrgh. Yeah, okay. So let's talk about the guest casting in this one because it is such a strong guest cast. And obviously, first off, we're going to talk about Michelle Ryan as Lady Christina de Souza. She was primarily known for American audiences as Jamie Summers, the modern Jamie Summers, the Bionic Woman, in the 2009 run of that series. So probably after she filmed Planet of the Dead, then she got probably hired for the Bionic Woman remake by M.
I actually went to the San Diego Comic-Con the year that premiered. I think I got to see the premiere episode at
Really?
Comic-Con. Yeah. And
Which
then it was kind of shocking to find out that she was English because,
right?
not in the show.
Yeah, she did a
And
pretty good. She did a pretty good American accent, I thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the show for its very, very short run.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was on NBC, which has the tendency to cancel a lot of shows that people like. And yes, I'm still bitter over Constantine. Just saying.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Totally ditto. I mean, it's nice to have him on Legends, but
It's not the
it's
same. It's
also a
not the
good
same.
show.
It's just like, you got his own show, and it was really good. I loved Matt Ryan in that. But she also played a character named Nimue, if you're up on your Arthurian literature, in the Sci-Fi Channel series Merlin. She was in that, which also debuted initially in the BBC.
I did watch that.
And she was on an episode of USA's Covert Affairs. And if you're a Sandman fan, like I am, if you're a fan of Neil Gaiman's Sandman, she was actually in a fan film. She played Death as in called Black Sand: A Sandman Story, which is a fan film that just came out here a couple of years ago. So
Interesting.
I actually tracked that down via the YouTubes and enjoyed it quite a bit. Actually, I thought it was pretty good for a fan film. So
Cool.
thought that was cool. Lee Evans, of course, plays the ever geeky Dr. Malcolm Taylor in the story. And
Wonderful Malcolm Taylor.
yeah, and he's turned up in some interesting places. He was in
Ooh,
the
my first.
yes,
The only thing I saw him in other than this was Fifth Element.
right. I was just about to mention that. So yeah,
Hmm.
so I couldn't quite remember which character he played. Do you remember which character he played?
He was on that pleasure cruise ship. He was on the bridge.
Okay.
There was a big shootout on the bridge, and he was in a scene with Bruce Willis, and he was like, "I'm going to negotiate with him," and then he goes in and shoots them all, and he's like, "Who taught him to negotiate like that?"
Well, see, now I have to watch Fifth Element again, and
Oh, I know, it's such a task.
I know exactly. Yeah, it's such a great movie. It's a fun, very artistically fun movie. Um, he was also in There's Something About Mary, which I thought was rather interesting, and he was also in The Ladies' Man, if you remember that from back in the day.
No, can't say I
It's
do.
rather obscure still. Um, Noma, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right. I'm probably butchering it. Dumaswini. I hope I'm pronouncing
That
it.
sounds good.
Okay, so let's just roll with that.
Sure.
She plays Captain Arisia Magambo, and she obviously previously appeared in the episode Turn Left. That was the one where Donna Noble kind of goes, like there's a whole big Roads Not Taken episode, and whole storyline hangs on whether Donna Noble should turn left at this intersection or turn right.
I
And
did not remember that she had been in an episode previous to this one.
yep,
So this is not her
this is
introduction.
not her introduction. No, she was in Turn Left, and she was also most notable outside of Doctor Who for playing Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child Broadway, or actually, excuse me, West End play.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, it was. So yeah,
I would like to see it.
yeah. Unfortunately, it got some controversy because the internet. And but
Well, I read the script, and
yeah,
it seems more fanficky to me than anything. But I hear they do some amazing things with magic on stage, and I would really like to see it for that.
well, J.K. Rowling wrote the screenplay. So
I believe she actually approved the screenplay.
oh, I'm sorry. Did she?
Yeah.
I thought she wrote it.
No, I believe it was written by
Okay.
fans.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking of? I think she didn't she adapt the screenplay for uh, like a collection or something, or like a hardcover version of that.
Possibly.
They released the screenplay. Maybe it was annotated or something. I don't know, but I thought she was more involved in that. But maybe like you said, because it's Harry Potter, she just approved it and rubber stamped it and said, "Okay, go do your thing." So
All right, hold on. I'm seeing based on an original news story by J.K. Rowling, Jack Thorne, and John Tiffany.
okay, so she probably like the other people probably wrote it. She probably maybe wrote a line, changed a
Oh,
line here and there,
and
or
underneath that, it actually says a new play by Jack Thorne. So
there you go.
maybe, yeah, she probably gave the play once they were done with it a once over,
Hmm.
and changed a few little details, and of course her big stamp of approval, which is very important.
Yeah.
And
Kind of like what Stephen Moffat was doing during Peter Capaldi's run, where other writers would write scripts and then he'd throw in a little bit of dialogue or a scene here and there, and then okay, and then it was written by so and so and Stephen Moffat. So yeah,
yeah,
that's probably exactly what happened. And but also she was recently in the movie Mary Poppins Returns.
have not had a chance to
So
see that yet.
so she's turned out in some interesting places. Now, one character in this story that has had quite the career since this episode is Daniel Kaluuya. Kaluuya. He plays Barclay. He's one of the bus passengers. Now, recently he's had a rather notable film because he appeared in Black Panther as Wakabi.
Aha!
So if you're a Black Panther fan, yeah, he's the one Wakabi who was romantically involved with
Yeah.
Okoye, played by Danai Gurira, and gets a little misguided until Okoye threatens to kill him if he doesn't surrender. And then maybe I'll just see the light here. And
Mm.
yeah,
And he's also in another very big notable
yes,
film, Get Out.
Get Out. Yes. So yeah, he plays Chris Washington in that one. And
You
so
know,
yeah,
it's,
if you're a horror fan, that was a big movie. So obviously, yeah, he's come quite a long way from just playing a bus passenger on Doctor Who.
just earlier today, I was rewatching an old Sports Night episode,
Hmm.
and they had this uh, fill-in anchor on the show, and I was like, "Hey, this guy looks familiar."
Right.
Oh, that's Black Lightning.
Chris
I was like, "Oh
Williams.
my God!"
Chris Williams is in that.
Yeah, just one episode.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he came on to replace Dan, well, because he wanted to go see Tom Waits playing at a club, and it was a bad day for him because he was pretty sure his girlfriend was going to break up with him. So he kept dropping things on the air to, trying to keep his girlfriend, in the middle of a sports news show. But he ended up getting kicked off.
Yeah, it's always fun when you get to see actors like, years later, obviously from the roles that you know them in, and then they just turn up on something and they're like, or vice versa, where you watch them something recently, like a movie or a big TV series, and then you're watching something from years ago, and they're like, oh, I can't believe so-and-so was in this.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy crap, I couldn't believe it. So I thought that was good. He's also been recently in the movie Sicario, and he also played Black Death in Kick-Ass 2. If you
Oh.
So there's an obscure reference for you.
It's been a while since I saw that. There was a
So
lot of characters in that one.
so a little step up from Kick-Ass 2 to Black Panther, just saying.
Mhm.
Ellen Thomas, who played Carmen, the rather psychically gifted woman on the bus, she was recently, well, actually, I take this back. She was previously in The Girl in the Fireplace, one of my all-time favorite episodes of Doctor Who, and she played a clockwork woman in that one.
Oh,
And
how did I miss that?
well, yeah, because, hey, she's behind a mask. How could you tell? And then she was also recently in another sci-fi series, Humans, which was imported from BBC, and a movie you probably didn't see, but you may have heard of, Johnny English Reborn with Rowan Atkinson. So, just throwing that out there.
Mm.
So, so anyway, so I just thought some interesting cast, and I thought I'd run those down. Unless there's somebody else that I overlooked that you just happen to come across in your research.
No,
All right,
I didn't do a lot of research on the cast this episode,
that's
although I
okay.
did a little behind the scenes research.
Oh, okay. What's your behind the
Yeah.
scenes research?
Well,
Go
I
forward.
happened to watch the Confidential on this one
Okay.
because it just started playing after I was done with the episode. I was like, okay, I'll watch it. So they had two double-decker buses for this episode because they filmed in Cardiff, I believe, for the London scenes, and also in Dubai for the desert scenes.
Right.
They had to ship the one double-decker bus. Took 5 weeks to get it to Dubai, and there was a bit of a mishap.
Yeah, that gets damaged in transport, didn't it?
Yes, apparently there was a careless crane operator moving containers, and the double-decker bus was sticking up above all the other containers, and it got smashed. The bus
Crunch.
was not meant to be smashed in this episode, and they apparently spent a good 3 hours laughing about it on the phone, because, I mean, what else are you going to do?
Right,
Hey,
exactly.
we got insurance, but
But
apparently...
we're not going to ship another bus, so
No, especially since it took them a lot of effort just to find those two buses. They had insurance, and Davies, after 3 hours of laughing about it, had a quick fix for it, and they threw in some lines about why the bus was crushed, and then they made sure to crush the other bus to match it. He said he loves a challenge, and somebody decided to give him a nice, good challenge.
yeah. Well, obviously, with a production like Doctor Who, sometimes you have to adapt to the reality of the situation. So that's
Yeah.
that's called thinking on your feet, obviously. but which obviously Russell T Davies is very good at, I'm sure. It's
Mm-hmm.
not his first rodeo. All right, so let's get into our main topics. And first topic I want to talk about the 10th Doctor and Lady Christina de Souza. So obviously this is the the big pairing of the episode. David Tennant paired with Michelle Ryan. They have this great chemistry, and they have a lot of common, these characters. The Doctor is a thief. We know, especially if you've watched The Doctor's Wife, that where the TARDIS, um, calls him a thief, her thief, and
My thief.
my thief, yes. And Lady Christina is obviously a thief because we even see her actually stealing this goblet at the beginning of the episode. So
And she did all that stunt work herself.
which is pretty impressive. I mean,
Yeah.
she's obviously very fit, so I'm sure she was physically up for it.
Mm.
But just the wire work, I'm sure had to be. I don't know how much of that she had done before, but it looked good. I mean, obviously she seemed like she knew what she was doing with those wires, or at least the production guys were handling it
Yeah.
pretty well. I actually think that'd be a little scary if you've never done any wire work before.
I guess it depends on the person. I
Yeah,
think I would have a blast with it. I
well,
think controlling the spin, though, would be the difficult part
right,
if you're
yeah,
not used to it.
because remember after she gets the goblet, she kind of does this flip around
Hmm.
to go back up. So I'm wondering if there's some outtakes that we probably should have watched where she
Oh, we
gets a
should
little
look into that.
tangled up in the wires, but there had to be some. I'm sure that couldn't have just gone smoothly the first time. But anyway, so I want to get your
Mm.
thoughts on Lady Christina and her interaction with the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. What'd you think?
Well, I like how it starts. She wants nothing to do with this guy. She wishes. Well, I mean, it's like the weird guy in the bus. He decides to sit down right next to her, even though there are plenty of seats.
Right.
And she, toward the beginning of the crisis, says that they're not a pair. But by the end of the episode, she's saying that they make a great team. He said so himself. And it's true, they would make a great team if only he wasn't, recently coming over this whole grief period
Right.
with Donna, and who can blame him? Uh, I think he's constantly on this horrible cycle where he's up for a new companion, has a great time, something bad happens to the companion, and he decides he's never going to have a companion again.
Right. And then something happens, and eventually he gets another companion. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she
rinse,
just
repeat. That
yeah,
whole thing.
I think she just caught him at the bad part of a cycle, and if it wasn't for that, she would have been like the next companion, which would have been awesome. I realized she looks a lot like Gwen from Torchwood.
Yes, she does because she has that same hairstyle.
The same hairstyle
Right.
and
With the
similar facial
bangs and yeah,
structures.
yeah,
Mm,
exactly. You're right, but obviously,
not Welsh.
Gwen, exactly, not yeah, and Gwen is a little more passionate, shall we say, to put it
Mm,
delicately. She's a little
yeah.
more exuberant than Lady
And
Christina.
although what those two have in common is they're very take charge women, they're very much in charge.
Right.
I love how she decides that she's the leader,
Right.
which
Yeah, there was a
is
scene
like,
after they you're right, after they get on they crash land on the alien planet
mhm,
and she kind of steps up to the front of the bus and starts going, "Okay, like you do this, you're this and this."
mhm. She just takes the leadership role, kind of pulls the rug out from under the doctor, and he's like, "What? Oh, okay, whatever."
Yeah.
But and she's also a very good leader because what she realizes is, she doesn't know everything, and she's perfectly fine to throw it over to him when it's his area of expertise. And I really liked that about her.
And
There's,
you notice though she kept very close because he was the smart one.
mm-hmm,
So she figured, well, okay, this guy's my best chance to get off this planet. So,
absolutely.
so I'm keeping him in sight. I'm not going to lose him, and whatever happens, we're going to stay together. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting. So the question is, how much of that was her desire to escape versus how she felt about him? Do you think?
Um, I think it was all,
Or did it start off that way and then maybe change a little as toward the end of the episode?
I think most of the episode it was about, I'm sticking with him because he's the one who's going to solve this problem, and I need to be there to, take charge when clearly he's going to need someone to take charge, because that's been her life clearly.
Right.
She's the one in charge. She uses someone for their abilities, but it's really all about her. And it wasn't really until toward the end of the episode when she was like, you know what? This guy's going to show me a whole new world of the life that I enjoy, and I want to go with him. And, I know she kissed him toward the end of the episode, but that's just part of the lifestyle. I don't think she was infatuated with him. It was just, the thrill and throwing a kiss to go with it.
And of course, the doctor's probably still goes, "Yep, still got it," as he's prone to do.
Yeah.
But it seems the 10th Doctor especially has this thing where he has to kiss each and every one of his companions practically. He kissed Rose, he kissed Martha, kissed Donna even.
Did he?
I believe so, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
don't remember, because I know she was very against that.
Right. No, what I mean, I'm trying to remember. There was one instance where something happened, and maybe I'm misremembering. I would think, yeah, obviously, because she just saw
I'm
him
looking
as a
it
mate.
up.
I think there was something though that there was a kiss there somewhere. I'm trying to remember, unless she kissed him or something to that effect.
I'm trying to see.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But
Oh, the unicorn and the wasp.
yes, that was it. Yeah, like kiss me, give me a shock, and she kisses him. That's right.
Mm,
When he gets poisoned and he's trying to okay, I need to clear out my system, give me a shock, and then she
yeah, that was
kisses him.
definitely a shock.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew it was in there somewhere. So somehow he always works that way. So
Hey, that was not his idea. It could have been any. She could have thrown a bucket of water on him or something. That was totally her idea.
right. Okay. You're sticking up for your doctor. Okay, I get that. That's okay.
Yes.
So the doctor.
Yeah, I gotta do a Matt Smith episode with you just to prove that I don't have a favorite.
That's okay. You don't have to prove it. It's but you're always welcome back and I would love to talk Matt Smith because I'm getting all these David Tennant requests. I want to talk more Matt Smith, so I'm always up for that.
All right, we'll do.
Excellent. So the doctor obviously tells her no, says you can't come with me. You can't travel with me because the doctor's in his mopey phase, and and he keeps getting all these indications as we're kind of building toward the end of time, his final story, where Carmen gives him that prophecy, the whole your song is ending. And so
he will knock 4 times.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And we all know how that turns out, don't we?
We love portents on this show.
Well, it's all the whole timey-wimey aspect, is perfect for those kinds of things. It's like, hey, foreshadowing, it's coming up, don't worry. Just hang in there.
Yeah.
This
season's Bad Wolf.
Exactly. So, yeah. And Russell T Davies was a master of that. He loved it. He loved to play the long game, and obviously these little teases and building it up and kind of giving, because at that point it was announced that David Tennant was leaving anyway, so it just kind of heightened the expectations for his finale. I think it's like, what does this all mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what was do you remember when you were first watching this? How did you feel about because you knew this was going to be we were coming up on Tennant leaving? Do you remember how you felt about that, or are you just like, okay, bring on the new guy?
More annoyed with the lack of a 10-episode season,
Okay, because it wasn't a regular season; it was just specials, and you're like, why?
I was like, why?
Yeah.
What is it with these British actors and I can't work on this for a full season? And
right.
It's like a real British thing. They don't like committing to a long show, and it's a lot of work. And
it's like, you you're lucky if you get more than 3 years out of them.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys need to talk to Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki about season 14, okay? 22 episode seasons.
Yeah, Supernatural's like on season 36 or something. I don't know. By now. They're basically okay. The Simpsons
The boys will be hunting until they're 60.
The Simpsons are doing another season. Okay, I guess we'll do another season. That kind of thing.
I mean, it's got to end eventually, right? It's going to get pointless. And I digress.
It's like Supernatural, so very tired.
So the sad thing about Lady Christina not becoming a companion at this point, I felt she had some decent flaws to overcome too. I mean, there was the fact that she enjoys stealing. And I'm sure that would come up again, being on other planets. Wonderful things to steal there, but also the leap before you look, literally in this episode. She nearly died because she was all gung-ho about diving down that shaft, and he stopped her just in time to not hit the security grid.
Right, and then she, of course, has to act like, well, of course, I meant to do that.
Oh,
yes.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't deny that she made a mistake. She just goes, okay, what now?
but you notice she doesn't say thank you.
No, she doesn't. So like,
it's almost
have
kind
some wonderful flaws.
It's almost kind of like a Batman-Catwoman relationship these two have.
Ooh, nice.
Because Catwoman is obviously a thief, and you know that kind of that roguish thief character, just playing off, and then you have that kind of chemistry too between the leads. So
there would be that constant question of, will she ever become
like,
a better person?
Yeah, exactly. Or the fact that, like, well, can I trust her? For one thing, there might be some, because with someone like that, who is so protective of their motives and always has possibly something ulterior to them. Could you trust them?
And that would make for some great stories.
Exactly. So this is one of the frustrating things about this story is, like, here she was, Lady Christine was this as a writer, I found, like, she was a pretty developed character for just one story, one episode. And it just seems like a lot of wasted potential to me, because I thought that she was just fascinating. I would have loved to have seen more. I know she's come back. Michelle Ryan's done some Big Finish audio adventures as Lady Christina, but it's not the same. Aww. Christine has her puppy.
Say hi to Rusty.
Hi, Rusty. Special guest appearance by Rusty.
Yeah. So you were saying?
No, that's all right.
Big Finish audio.
If my cat Keiko was here, I'd bring her up, I'm sure, as well. So yeah. But yeah, just as the Big Finish audios, just obviously it gives us a chance to kind of hear her as Lady Christina again. But it's not the same thing as watching her on television, and obviously interacting with the Doctor. We want to see that as well, because especially I'd like to see her with other Doctors now that after meeting the 10th Doctor.
I'm not sure that chemistry would be there with Whittaker. She's quite a different person than.
Yeah, and I think that's what would kind of make it interesting. But at least for an episode, just to kind of like catch up with Lady Christina.
Like a reoccurring river song type role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or just just kind of like what they did with Sarah Jane. We bring her back for an episode, maybe set up a spin-off series.
Oh, another spin-off?
Well, we don't have any at the moment.
Or in the modern era.
We don't have any at the moment. There's Class was kind of a dud, so.
I liked it.
I liked it too, but
it was different. But I think a lot of people were like, no, this wasn't working out.
I think my only main problem with Class was that it didn't have a stronger Doctor Who connection, and I think if it did, they started to do they teased the Weeping Angels, but I think it was by that point a lot of people had checked out. I think if they'd teased the Weeping Angels a little sooner, people might have stuck around and given it more of a chance.
You hear that, listeners? You should have given it more of a chance.
Just saying.
Give the next one more of a chance. Yeah. We like spin-offs.
At least we don't have Torchwood anymore, but some people want Torchwood back. We'd love to see Captain Jack again. So
I don't know if I want to see the continuation of the American Torchwood, though.
no. I get that. Yeah, we don't want the Torchwood Miracle Day stuff. Yeah, or
Well, I
not,
mean, yeah, it was
yeah, it was
Miracle Day.
Yeah, it was Miracle Day. So
The story wasn't so bad, but the long form storytelling was just jarring after 3 seasons of, previous Torchwood.
right. Yeah, it was, and the whole completely different cast and the whole changing the setting definitely didn't help either, I think.
Well, of course, they were working with the cast they had left over from
Yes, yeah.
Children of Earth.
Because like, hey, we killed off Ianto, and so it's like how many? Okay, and we've already killed off Tosh and Owen. So who's left?
Mhm.
Okay, well, there's Gwen.
Really, they
had Gwen.
they had Gwen and Reese,
yeah,
and Captain Jack, and then so they're like, okay, we need to add some more characters, and since it's partially an American production now, they have to be American.
Right, exactly. And obviously that didn't fly so well. So, all right, so we're gonna fix all the shows just by talking about Planet of the Dead. We sidetrack and then we'll figure out all this stuff.
I'm not very good at staying on topic. Sorry.
No. I'm the same way. Obviously, if you've listened to this podcast, yes, you know that digression is the norm here. So don't feel bad at all. All right. Anything else about Lady Christina and the Doctor before we move on?
No, I think I'm good on that topic.
All right. Let's move on to topic number 2. Unit. I want to talk about Unit and specifically Captain Magambo and Malcolm with his Dr. Malcolm Taylor with his scale influenced by Quatermass.
Yeah, this is where we get way too sciencey for me. I mean, I enjoy science. Yeah, I enjoy science fiction, but there's a very small limit to my science knowledge.
No, that's all right. But but what was so lovable, I think, about Malcolm in this is that he is such a fanboy of the Doctor, and just geeks out over him. When he gets to meet him in person at the end of the episode, he hugs him and just keeps going, I love you, and just that enthusiasm. And I thought was really good.
It was great. And, just the solid appreciation of being called a genius by this person he looks up to.
Right.
It's great. And then the physical comedy.
Yeah. It's Lee Evans, who's a comedian in the UK. Mm-hmm. So, I'm sure he was perfectly happy doing all that physical comedy with like the fire extinguisher, which kind of throws him around the room and all that, the whole slapstick of it.
Oh, and the magnifying glasses,
right.
Goggles or whatever. It's like, I'm ready for what? Whatever.
Now, one of his scenes I thought was really good is where Captain Magambo threatens to kill him.
Yeah, I mean,
and he's just kind of like, wait, what happened here? Aren't we on the same side? Why are you threatening to kill me?
Yeah, that was a big, out of nowhere, why are we doing this? Speaking of Captain Magambo,
yeah.
At the beginning of the episode, she's made kind of endearing with the ridiculousness of saluting over the phone.
Right.
But after that, it just kind of goes downhill for me. I mean, there's the fact that she wants him on speakerphone the whole time because she doesn't trust anything.
Right.
And I'm like, why? This guy works for you, and he doesn't seem like the type of guy to just...
He's not going to lie to you, as far as we know, so...
I mean, he's a scientist. He's not an underhanded type of guy.
Yeah, just you're right, and I never really thought about that, but you're right. I think that Magambo wasn't so trusting, and obviously a change. She's obviously not like the Brigadier or the Brigadier's daughter, Kate Stewart. That that she uses the science, but I think it's just that she's too militaristic in her thinking.
And then there's a really weird line that she uses near the beginning of the episode, or beginning of this encounter with when she goes to hand him the phone, telling him it's the doctor, and he's all geeking out. And she says this line, we both want to meet him someday, but we know on that what that day will mean. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Way to be melodramatic. What are we talking about here? Especially since they both meet him at the end of the episode, and I'm like, so what does it mean?
Yep.
Because it seems like we're all done here.
Yep. So where's this like big ominous moment that you were building up to? Where's the payoff for that?
Yeah, she seems to have a lack of trust in people that doesn't seem to be earned. I know trust needs to be earned, but I think that level of distrust also needs to be earned. And she just, maybe there's a reason for it in her backstory, but it wasn't presented to us.
No, there's no explanation for it whatsoever. So as far as we know, it's just, okay, someone who's just a little too stolid in their thinking and not adapting as well to the situation as she probably could. I think. But thankfully, Malcolm kind of makes up for that.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings this enthusiasm. He has his own scale of measurement.
Malcolms and Bernards.
Bernards. And the doctor's just like, Bernards? What's a Bernard? And
is that your father?
And then you're like, no, Quatermass.
No,
which is referring to
Quatermass.
Yeah, referring to one of the oldest sci-fi series in the UK.
Oh, geez.
The Quatermass Experiment. If you're a really old school sci-fi geek from the 50s, I think.
Wow.
I think that predated Doctor Who, if I'm not mistaken.
I think aside from Doctor Who, which I haven't actually watched the classic, I think the oldest British show I've watched is Red Dwarf.
That's up there. That's up
Yeah.
there. So, but it's like 70s, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, not that old, but I get what I get to.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure a lot of us are just like, what's Quatermass? What are we talking about?
So I get the impression that he's named Quatermass after his father, but he doesn't explain where the name Bernard comes from, and I'm wondering if it's like his middle name.
I think it's. I never watched that show, so oddly enough, so I'm not quite familiar with it. I think it's just the character was named Bernard Quatermass. I think so. It's probably his first name, I'm guessing.
Ah, okay. Well, I was thinking.
I could be wrong. So if anybody out there in podcast land is actually familiar with the Quatermass TV series, fill me in, or obviously I could go on the Wikipedia or whatever and look it up, but it's always fun to hear from you guys. So tell me what's going on with Quatermass if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, his name is Bernard Quatermass.
Yay! Hooray for guessing. Totally planned on my part. But that was interesting. So obviously Unit gets to close up the wormholes at the end of the episode after killing a bunch of these guys, the metal stingrays that come through.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of know how their bullets, unless they were armor-piercing bullets, kill those metal stingrays.
Solid metal. We got a good look at one of those stingray type things in the Tridivore ship.
Right.
And it looks like they have kind of like a cage exoskeleton of metal, but you can see fleshy bits.
So maybe like the underbelly or something.
It was just kind of all over, or
just depending on the angle.
Yeah, it had like metal down, say the spine and the edges, like
if there was cartilage along the spinal area.
Yeah,
like that. Maybe this cartilage you could shoot, I guess.
But yeah, it was like patchy flesh all over the place.
Got it. All right. So anything else about Unit in this episode?
No.
Nope.
Just a shout out for Malcolm Taylor.
Yeah, he was a fun character. I'd love to have him back as well.
Yeah.
I think it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Unit seems to be gone right now. What's he doing?
Let's give him,
I would love to see him with Whittaker.
Apparently he's in the welfare queue at
Oh.
Yeah, I
feel
bad.
Sad.
He got laid off, so probably. He's probably sending out his resume or something. All right, let's move on to topic number 3. The Mighty 200. the passengers I want to talk about here, and also the Tridivores, which you mentioned.
First
So,
off,
yes,
team identification.
right?
Nathan, Barclay, Angela Whitaker, Louis, also known as Lou, and Carmen.
Very nice.
Study those names. There may be a test later.
That was a good line. I like that one. Yeah. So obviously that's when Lady Christina takes charge, and I like that a lot. So and the doctor's just kind of like, okay, I'll just leave this to you, so I don't have to do it for once. But but that was good. So now, as we're introduced to the passengers, Carmen is obviously the most enigmatic with her psychic flashes, which come in very handy. Even the doctor's kind of surprised by her psychic talent. And
Although
he does the whole fingers behind the back trick.
Mm-hmm. And we get the impression from him that it's not normally as strong as it is on this planet. That
Right.
it's being
The planet is kind of augmenting her
Yes.
abilities. Yeah.
I really feel that she was underused. Since this is the only episode we're going to get her in,
Right.
like she clues him in that the wormhole isn't an accident, just a natural occurrence, but that it was done on purpose, which gets him thinking in a different direction right off the bat, which is helpful.
Right.
And then, while she does sense a lot of things through the episode, it's really just kind of side narration for the audience because she's just sitting on the bus with her husband, saying these things. And it's not until the end of the episode that we get that wonderful portent from her about
Right.
the end of his song. But I feel like they could have, I don't know, used it maybe a couple more times to help along this story.
Right. At least to have them give them something more to do. Because, I mean, her husband, Lou, doesn't really do anything at all. He just kind of sits there.
I mean, the only purpose I can see for Lou is to
He was talking about,
kinda-
like, pork chops, and that was about it.
well, he justifies, if someone says that they're psychic, they sound crazy. But if someone who knows them says, no, really, they are, and starts giving examples, that gives them a little more credence.
Right.
And so basically he was there to, support her, to like back up her claim.
Got it.
Although to say with the doctor there probably wasn't necessary because he's more willing to believe things like that. And he did his own little test to prove it. So,
But the doctor's more of an outsider because he's, he's weird science guy.
mm-hmm.
And obviously, like someone who is a bus passenger like them is going to be more credible to something
Yes.
like that. So you're right. I think that's a great insight.
Yeah. Also, when you're throwing passengers on a bus for an episode like this, you want to get a nice sampling of the type of people you might find on a bus. You would find an older couple
Right.
On occasion. So we want to make it realistic in just who's on this bus.
Right. Angela, for the most part, panics,
Mm.
except for her big contribution is to tell the doctor that he can press 0 to get past the unit, the automated switchboard.
Saw it on Watchdog. I've tried that before. It doesn't work for every system.
No, it doesn't.
I was very upset about that.
Unfortunately, because especially if you're someone that's waited for technical support and you're just like, okay, I'm really tired of your automated system. I want to reach through the phone. I want to grab it and I want to throw it on the floor. So it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. So
for anybody who has had to deal with the Department of Human Services, which is where you get Medicaid
right.
and other such services, I think it does not work, which is the place it really needs to work. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. My parents do have Medicaid, so yeah, I can attest to that. So Nathan and Barclay, who end up being recommended by the doctor at the end of the episode as privates Nathan and Barclay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
For UNIT.
For UNIT, it's like, hey, join UNIT so you can get killed by alien monsters.
Woohoo!
Go for it. Thanks, doctor.
Hey, Nathan needs a job. He just lost his. I don't know what Barclay was doing before, but
Yeah.
why not? Here you go, have another job.
If I was Barclay, I'd be like, "Do you have something in the office? Like a desk job, maybe?"
I mean, he took some mechanical stuff.
Right.
Didn't finish. Maybe he could.
Maybe the auto pool, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, they just kind of keep
And
you
let's
awake.
not forget, Angela did something wonderfully useful and used up all the fuel. Yeah,
Right.
that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, she floored it and just completely flooded the engine, I thought. But
Just didn't think to look at that fuel gauge.
it's only right in front of her.
Yeah,
What are you
but
gonna
in
do?
the end, they managed to get the bus out of there without needing fuel.
This is true. This is
Yeah.
true. Because of the doctor's creative thinking, and much to Lady Christina's chagrin,
Hmm.
because after she goes through all the trouble of like, okay, hey, I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna get you this crystal, and the doctor's just like, I don't need the crystal, I just want the little magnet things on the clamps on the back, or
You know,
whatever.
it's that crystal probably isn't even worth much.
Right. It's like, the doctor obviously isn't impressed by my money, so he's just like, whatever. And so they attach these little magnetic things, but they do kind of need the crystal to kind of focus it. It was a little.
No, no.
It was,
Um,
they had the
they needed
goblet.
he needed a conductor. The crystal wouldn't have worked. He needed metal that was
That's
a
right.
good conductor,
And gold,
malleable.
and gold is a conductor, and it's malleable.
Hmm.
So he asked Christina for her goblet, and
Be
she was.
very careful.
Yes,
I
be
will
very.
be.
So of course he immediately grabs a hammer, starts smashing it, bang, 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 and that
love
look on her face, I thought was priceless. Just
I
this kind
hate you.
yeah. And then she
You know,
turns,
I have to
and then turns
say,
around like 5 seconds later and kisses him. So go figure.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
I have to say, being a one-of-a-kind item like that, while it may be damaged, I'm sure it's still worth quite a bit of money.
right.
Yeah.
It's nothing
mean,
else. It's gold. You could.
Yeah, well,
It's the metal itself is valuable. So it's
not as valuable as 18 million pounds, though.
no. I'm sure there's some little depreciation after what the doctor did to it, but
I mean, there's plenty of artifacts out there that have been damaged through time, and they're still worth a lot of money.
yeah, just unfortunately one bad owner in the doctor. That was a great scene, I thought. I really
So let's
liked.
talk about the Tridivores,
Yeah, let's talk about the Tridivore. So
or
essentially,
fly people.
yeah. So if you're kind of like a fan of the movie The Fly, thankfully this is not as gross as the remake. And the Tridivores were essentially like fly people because Russell T Davies has this thing about animals, like animal aliens on Doctor Who. We've had the Jadoon, which are rhinos, and like on the Lazarus experiment, it was like
Oh, the pig people.
the pig people. Yeah, so yep, all kinds of animals. He loves those.
I mean,
And
it's so simple to stick an animal head on a person's body and make it an alien.
right, exactly. So
And it's still more alien than a lot of the Star Trek aliens where they just put like some ridges on their
or
face.
some bumpy foreheads. Yes,
Hmm.
yeah. Especially like they did in the 80s, where they just we need the alien on Star Trek Next Generation. Okay, bump, 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 bump. Yeah, there you go.
Paint the skin green.
There you go.
Yeah.
Works every time. But so the Tridivores were essentially they were the victim, kind of like the bus, where they ended up crash landing on this desert planet.
They got scullied.
Yes, they did. And the they were kind of stuck until the doctor's just like, well, maybe I could fix your engine,
Yeah, but
that
the
didn't quite
ship's
work.
ripped in half.
Yeah, it's like a little too late because hey, those the stingrays,
Mhm.
kind of took care of them a little bit.
Yeah.
And the Tridivores because hey, well, we need to figure out a way to like write out these fly people because we can't bring them to Earth. Well, I guess we have to kill them off.
Yeah, it would have made the story a little more complicated at the end. Bugs
Right.
show up, giant bugs show up on that bus with these people.
How do you
And,
think that, how do you think that police detective that was chasing Lady Christina would have thought when like a fly person walks out of
I,
of that bus?
I think he may have gone home. Yeah. I think he would have given up his lifelong chase of Lady de Souza and just been like, I'm out.
Yeah, that's like that's it. I'm done. I'm gone. That's nope, nope. I'm gone. But yeah, it was pretty good.
Although I did like the line, the captain can go leave his ship if there's a bus waiting.
That was good. The now, if you notice, they actually paid attention to the doctor because the TARDIS wasn't nearby. The TARDIS couldn't translate for Lady Christina or the others.
Yeah.
So Lady Christina couldn't understand what the Tridivores were saying, but the doctor apparently, because he speaks every language except for the ones he can't understand. Yeah, exactly. He's a slight exaggeration on the doctor's part. Go figure.
Well, rule number one.
The doctor lies, exactly. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting, and that he and especially I like Tennant's trying to speak Tridivore with his kind of like
I mean,
that all that clicking and
you
popping.
gotta give it to him. He doesn't have a mouth shaped for the language,
right?
So he did his best.
It's obviously with his Gallifreyan accent.
Hey, he spoke the Rhino language too, the Jadoon. He spoke to them.
That's through the whole Bosho Ro no To. Yeah, that whole thing.
Everything must end in O.
Go with the flow. Yeah. But
speaking of that police detective, I gotta say,
we haven't really talked about him, but yeah, go ahead.
He was a little bumbling, if you ask me, because Christina gets on that bus at the end, starts to fly off. The door's shut, and he's like, "You open this door. You open this door." I'm like, "There's an emergency latch right there, big white letters, emergency release, emergency exit. Just turn the thing, and the door opens." I mean, it is a bus door. It's not exactly, like
rocket science. Yeah, exactly.
Security system just busted open. You're not really feeling this, are you?
I'm completely stumped by this technology. I can't get on the bus.
I don't think he really wanted to catch her. I think it was an act.
No, I think you're right the first time. I think he's just incompetent. But I was kind of expecting the Benny Hill music to start playing.
I was going to say, the Keystone Cops were so last century.
It's like, oh, she got away again. Those Duke boys are. But one of the typical sheriff that just can't do what he's try to catch the criminals or whatever. But in this case, a detective, obviously. So anything else about I'm trying to remember. I don't think we left anybody out as far as the bus passengers.
Well, there was the driver.
Well, that's true, but the driver,
definitely
the driver who is basically there to show everybody, hey,
we can't just walk through.
This is why you can't just walk through the wormhole.
Yeah, I mean, his flight or fight response, definitely flight.
Yep.
And
so congratulations on being an expendable on Doctor Who.
And he wasn't even wearing a red shirt.
No, he wasn't. Hey, that's Star Trek, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, I'm sure Graham would not have been happy with him. The bus driver should, he would have been a little upset that the bus driver died.
Yeah.
But
he wasn't worthy of the title.
That's true. He did, because he was stupid enough to get himself killed. Exactly. But that was good. Okay. Anything else about this episode before we move on? Anything?
I think we may have dissected it to its fullest.
All right. Hopefully we didn't get bogged down in too much minutia, but I really like this story. I thought it's just the pacing is really good, and overall, I just think it's this great adventure, and the Dubai landscape just looks great on screen. It's very cinematic, and this was the very first story that was aired in HD. So this was a kind
good choice.
Good technological breakthrough. Yeah, exactly, because it does have a very cinematic look to it, especially those desert scenes, and which is a little frustrating for the DVD set, because you had the previous special, the Next Doctor, the one with David Morrissey, that was in standard, and everything else since then was high def. So it's just like, well, Okay. So either I buy the Blu-ray set, but this isn't Blu-ray. This isn't like high def, or I get the DVD set and don't have the rest in high def. So a little frustrating, but
Well, I actually bought
first
this.
world problems, I guess.
I bought this big set of the Tennant years.
Yes.
Everything that had David Tennant. I think there's even some cartoons on there, and it was so
Like Dreamland, and yeah, that was a good one.
so like I all of that was DVD. It was a great price. I think it was like $130 when like each individual season is like $50.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I have to get this because I'm not going to find a better price for all these episodes.
Right. All right. So I'm kind of very curious to know what you're rating for this one.
Are we skipping favorite lines?
We could do favorite lines first. If you want to stick to the outline, I get so enthusiastic. I get like, oh, I got to know what she thinks. All right. So what's your favorite lines of this episode?
There wasn't a lot of good quotable lines. I do love quotable lines, but this one not so much. But there was that's not a name. That's a psychological condition.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was one that I had. I like the exchange. Personally, I like the exchange between Lady Christina and the doctor, where she goes, it's Christina de Souza. To be precise, Lady Christina de Souza. Oh, that's handy, the doctor replies, because I'm a lord. Christina replies, seriously, lord of where? It's quite a big estate.
It truly is.
Yes, it's all of time, yes.
And
Time
I
and
wouldn't be
space.
surprised if he actually has land in England, though.
Well, he's probably bought a house or two, I would think, in case he needs to stay somewhere. Do you have any other lines that you liked?
Yes. They feed off what others leave behind from their behind.
That's a good one. I like this one line from Malcolm, where he goes, Cole, blimey, I can't believe I'm actually speaking to you. I mean, I've read all the files. And the doctor replies, really? What was your favorite? Giant robot? No, let's sort out that wormhole.
So what was that referring to?
So that was the giant robot. It was actually referring to Tom Baker's first story, which was called, wait for it, Robot. And, yeah. So, and it did have a giant robot. Actually, it was a robot that ended up getting this chemical that caused it to grow to like Godzilla size, and it started stomping through this town.
Wait. So this was a chemically mutated robot.
Yes. The metal, apparently, because it was this was 1974. You know, a lot of people were doing heavy drugs in 1974. So. But yeah, so that was the premise, and that this metal, because it could apparently it wasn't your typical metal, could be affected, and then somehow that caused the robot to grow to giant size. And then they had to the doctor had to put a chemical to kind of almost like a acid to shrink it back down, and then also get rid of it. So it just kind of disintegrated, essentially.
Did it say I'm melting while that happened?
It should have. I'm melting. What a world. And yeah, it should have done.
You know, she never actually said that.
But it sounds so good.
It does. It just describes what's happening in the scene in the voice of the person it's happening to.
Right.
You know? Things change.
Yeah. So do you have any other lines?
I'm gonna try to say this one.
Okay.
It's so allons-y. Oui, mais pas si nous allons vers un couchement.
Not bad. That's pretty good. You're parlaying your français rather well there.
It's okay. But basically, I got a translation for those who don't speak French, which includes me.
The French challenged.
Despite the amount of French I took in schooling across the years.
Right.
So if after all the times you heard David Tennant say allons-y and you still don't know what it is, shame on you.
Right.
It means let's go.
Right.
And she says, yes, but not if we are going towards a nightmare.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. Thank you for that translation. I always kind of wondered about that.
Google. Google is great.
Hooray for Google Translate.
I mean, that was a pretty decent translation, although French isn't too far away from English in that respect.
All right. Really quickly, because I know we got to move along. I just had one more quote. Christina says, "How does the crystal drive the bus?" And the doctor replies, "In a super clever outer spacey way."
That's technical.
Yeah, exactly. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Yeah.
These are official terms.
Yes, he's really big on the technical terms. Yes, this doctor. It's like
that is why we love him.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So now, do you have any other quotes, or do you want to give your rating?
That was it.
All right. What's your rating? I'm dying to know.
You may be surprised.
Yes.
I give this one 7 Bernards.
Ooh.
Yes.
Rather low.
It is. I mean, I love the pairing.
Yeah.
I love the Doctor and Christina, and the storyline getting caught on the other planet and having like a limited amount of time to solve this problem, get off the planet, and that general storyline is great. But I didn't like the unit captain. She didn't.
Magambo. Yeah.
She wasn't really making sense to me in her actions. I felt like the bus passengers were underused, and there was just and there was even a moment with Lady Christina that didn't make sense to me about her, where she realizes the sand is people and it's in her hair, and she goes all girly.
Yeah, she does. She's like, "Ew, it's in my hair."
But in my hair, and I'm like,
really?
Wait, this is not the person I have seen.
Right.
Up to this point, or even after that point. That's not the person I've seen. Like, I imagine she's the type of person who would dive into a sewer, like a really nasty, stinky sewer, like waist deep, and be fine. So there's sand in my hair.
It seemed rather uncharacteristic, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had dings on the episode, and the Keystone Cop, who doesn't know how to open a bus door.
Right.
So the structure of the episode was good. The chemistry between the two characters was good. It needed work.
Yeah. I'm a little more generous than you. I gave it 8.5 smashed golden goblets.
Ooh.
That I really liked the cinematic look of this episode. I thought the direction was good. And I think I'd approach it from a more production standpoint. I thought it was a good quality production. The script moved along. There was a lot of good banter, especially between Tennant and Michelle Ryan. I thought obviously the chemistry is there, and a little disappointed that we sadly didn't get more of that. But I get your points. I think especially on Magambo, I think that was a very valid point.
Also, remembering that we didn't get a full season, they had time to work on these things.
This is true. That's like, you only had one episode every 3 months. You could kind of like tinker the script a little better. Mm-hmm. But I also liked Malcolm Taylor, Lee Evans, and he brought a lot of great comic relief, and I thought that was good. So that's where I'm coming from it. But
BBC, if you're listening, we'd like to see that character again.
Yes.
What's he doing post-unit or in the weird...
Maybe he's hanging out with Osgood somewhere.
Ooh. Oh, now they have to.
That's your spinoff right there. Malcolm and Osgood.
Oh my God. Brilliant.
Unit Science Geeks.
Oh, yes. Make it happen.
That should happen, right?
Stamp it, print it, get it out there.
I'll wait for my check in the mail, BBC. You're welcome. I just pitched you that idea, and it's for free. All right.
So let's reverse the polarity.
Let's reverse the polarity, yes. We're going to reverse the polarity in the neutron flow. Back to 1979 with the Horns of Nimon, which is a story from the Tom Baker era, from season 17, the 5th serial in that season, written by Anthony Reed. And in this story, we have the 4th Doctor, Tom Baker, the 2nd Romana, played by Lalla Ward, and K9 in the TARDIS console room. The Doctor's kind of tinkering around, making some rather major modifications, but close to a manufactured black hole, because, hey, it's the Doctor. He extends the TARDIS door to a force field to a nearby spaceship, which turns out to be a Skonan battlecruiser, and he and Romana board it, and the Doctor notices right off the bat there's a bunch of radioactive crystals called hemetusite, and they also find a hold full of young prisoners from this planet called Aneth. So one of them, named Tika, has a lack of faith in another prisoner named Seth to free them from their incarceration, and they kind of look to the doctor and hope that he can help out, because they've obviously been taken against their will. Now, the co-pilot of this ship takes the Dr. and Romana to the bridge at gunpoint, forces them to fix the ship. And Romana suggests adapting the ship to use a hemetusite crystal power source. So kind of similar. We have a crystal power source to this, to the Planet of the Dead. With the Skonan craft prepared, the co-pilot starts to move his ship away, leaving the TARDIS stranded, though, and facing obliteration from the black hole. But of course, it's the TARDIS. It's not going to get destroyed. The Doctor bounces the TARDIS off an approaching asteroid, starts to repair the console in order to pilot the TARDIS to the planet Skanos and confront the evil there. And the planet turns out to be dominated by a Minotaur-like Naimon, hence the title, which exists within this power complex where only the Skonan leader, who's rather corrupt, named Soldeed, can go.
It's an alien with an animal head.
Exactly, another animal alien, exactly. The Naimon is angry when Soldeed reports that the last batch of sacrifices from Aneth have not arrived. So apparently, all those people that were on this ship turned out to be sacrifices to the Naimon. And the Doctor soon escapes, heads into the power complex. But inside the complex, the walls start shifting in kind of like a labyrinthian type effect. So because essentially we have a Minotaur, so we have like the maze of the Minotaur. If you're familiar with the Greek mythology, you probably might be a little familiar where they're coming from with this. But inside that complex, Romana finds that there are husks of the previous Anethians. So apparently they're feeding off their life force, draining their lives. It kind of sounds like a little bit like the stingrays in Planet of the Dead, because as the Naimon reaches this power source room, starts manipulating the controls of this machine, it causes the complex to glow with energy, and a shimmering tunnel appears, and a travel globe bearing 2 more Naimons comes down it. So now there are 3 Naimons, and they announce that the planet Krynoth, where they just came from, is dying, and that all Naimons must continue the great journey of life to Skanos. So essentially you have a race that kind of like feeds off the energy of one planet, turns it into a wasteland, and then moves on to another planet. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does.
And once the Naimons leave, the Doctor examines the globe and accidentally sends... he's examining the globes, and he actually sends one globe down a tunnel with Romana in it. But before he can reverse this, Soldeed arrives and uses his staff to destroy the control panel. Dope! And Romana arrives on the dying world of Krynoth, encounters many Naimons and a broken old man named Sezom, who helps the Naimons establish themselves on the world, and now knows that they have destroyed it. So, just as the Doctor attempts to repair the transportation, the Naimons return to the power source room, reverse the tunnel, thankfully, because that brings Romana back from Krynoth just in time. Soldeed, having escaped from the power source room, sees the multiple Naimons, goes, wait, weren't there just one of these guys? Who are all these guys? And so his faith in the Naimon is pretty much wrecked by this point. He gets shot down by Seth, but he triggers this chain reaction which will destroy the complex. The Doctor and his party make their way out of the complex just in the nick of time because, hey, it's Doctor Who. Using K9 to work a proper exit path through the labyrinth, they escape just as the Naimon's power complex explodes. Hooray. So,
Yay.
Back in the TARDIS, the Doctor watches as Seth and Tika fly to the spacecraft back to Aneth, and the Naimon threat is finally over. Hooray.
This Soldeed guy looks a little like Ming the Merciless.
Doesn't he? You looked him up, didn't you?
Yeah.
But yeah. So if you're a fan of Planet of the Dead and you're kind of looking for that kind of alien race goes and destroys a planet and then decides, well, hey, we need to like keep living, so we're going to go to another planet and wreck that one as well. Here you go. So,
Yeah.
yep. So it's all connected, Doctor Who.
Yeah, you think they ever like realize they're doing this? You know, like making a very similar story to an old one.
Yeah, exactly. I think that a lot of these writers, they get influenced and they don't realize it. Or they're just like, hey, that sounds good. And then after they make it, they go like, crap.
I did that once
I
with
did.
an essay I did in middle school.
Right.
I didn't realize until much later in life that it was very much the pilot episode of Rainbow Bright.
That's funny. All right. We do have some listener feedback that I want to go through really quickly. So Holly Mack, um, Christine, you wrote back to us on January 13th to say, hey, I'd like to, do Planet of the, or we figured that we started over the course of that, we figured out Planet of the Dead. So I got an email from Holly after announcing this back on January the 30th. So finally get to go around and read that one from Holly from Wisconsin, who writes in about Planet of the Dead. She goes, hey all, love the introduction of Lady Christina de Souza in the story. When I first saw the story, when the bus driver returns a pile of bones, I thought they were first bringing Torchwood, but I'll take Unit any day. Loved Malcolm, the precursor to Petronella Osgood. See? That's kind of like Malcolm and Osgood. That's where it should be. Would have been interesting to see the two of them team up. I know, right? Would have been, maybe we'll get a big finish with the two of them meeting. Christina seems to be a cross between River Song and Parker from Leverage. I don't watch Leverage, so I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
So you're down with that? Because I don't watch
she's my favorite character on that show. That's like a newer version of the A-Team, I believe.
Okay, that works.
But yeah, I never watched the A-Team, but I watched all of Leverage.
Okay.
Totally worth it.
Well, I watched the A-Team, so I get the reference. So River because of the flirting, and Parker because she's a cat burglar and loves shiny things and is good with climbing gear. Love the ending with the doctor resting himself to the police box. That was a good moment. We didn't talk about that. I'll just go in inside and rest myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good line. But no one being the wiser and disappearing after helping Christina escape. Plus his aversion to unit paperwork. Well, yeah, because he's always trying to avoid unit paperwork.
Who likes paperwork?
Yeah.
Aside from Sheldon.
Guess he must have done quite a bit of it during his third regeneration. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. Yes. It was during his exile on Earth back in the John Pertwee era.
That was a whole time where he didn't have his TARDIS and he was working with Unit.
Yeah, this was after, at the end of the Second Doctor's era, he basically turned himself into the Time Lords and they punished him by exiling him to Earth. And they took away his knowledge of the TARDIS. And so basically he's stuck on Earth in exile.
Wow. I learned so much just from listening to you.
That's why we're here, and then all this stuff is just rattling around in my brain somewhere.
So I wonder when the skeleton came through the wormhole, like what makes you think Torchwood instead of Unit for that one? I mean, I get the Torchwood stuff, tends to be a little more grim, but you didn't see a lot of Torchwood after the spin-off started on Doctor Who.
Right.
Like a lot of those situations tend to fall to Unit a lot, especially when it became about this giant wormhole that was getting bigger. That sounds very, the military would want to get involved on that.
Right.
It didn't even cross my mind that Torch would show up.
Right, but it could obviously work within that story, I think. But if you wanted it to. All right. Fred Firestein also wrote in about Inferno, but we already covered Inferno, and we're kind of running a bit long here. So, Fred, I apologize. We'll try and read your email next time.
Sorry.
No, it's on me. That's if yours truly was better at time management, we would be able to get to that. So that's on me. I'll own that. Let's see. So what else? So next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk the Lazarus Experiment. Another David Tennant story, but this time with Jesse Jackson, who's coming back, and he's been away far too long, and but he obviously can't get far enough because we're pulling him back in, and he's going to be talking some more Doctor Who. So Everybody's going to welcome Jesse back, and as we talk, a really fun episode, The Lazarus Experiment, with, of course, Mark Gatiss as the big bad in that story, Professor Lazarus.
Yeah.
So that's a fun one. But if you want to be like Fred or Holly and you want to email us here at Next Stop Everywhere, you can do that, of course, at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com, or you can reach us on the Twitter machine at nextstopsmg. That's at nextstopsmg, the SMG, of course, for Southgate Media Group. Or you can reach us on the Facebook that your parents are on at Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Or you can reach us on the Instagrams at Next Stop Everywhere Podcast on the Insta. So please check us out there. And Christine, where can they find you on the interwebs?
That's an excellent question. You can find me on Facebook, Christine Peruski. I have a artist page, I guess you could call it, working on that graphic design stuff there. I also have a Behance page. It's more of a portfolio type place to go look at my digital projects. You can also find me on Twitter at C_Peruski. And you can check out Small Council Matters. It's our Game of Thrones podcast. We will be coming back for a pregame show next month. And we'll be covering that last season of Game of Thrones. One more season, 6 episodes.
I am so excited for that, like you would not believe. We're actually doing a rewatch of that right now.
Who isn't?
Yeah, exactly, right? So, but yeah, I'm just so looking forward to that. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. All right. Let's see. Otherwise, I, of course, can be found on the Twitter machine at Charles Skaggs, or on at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram, and Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or my blog of Geeky Things, if I can get the button to work.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Exactly. Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, or Doctor Who, or Torchwood, or what have you, all kinds of comic book sci-fi goodness. News of my other podcasts they do for Southgate Media, including Titan Talk, Titans Podcast with Jesse, where we're going to be reviewing Doom Patrol here as soon as I get off this podcast, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Good luck.
Yeah, if I can shut up fast enough. Or, Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, etc., etc. So please check those out if you'd be so kind. I would deeply appreciate it. And otherwise, thank you, Christine, for helping us out. We really appreciate that. I know I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure.
And I was great to have you back. I know it's been far too long. I know you were kind enough to help us out last year, and you came back, and so thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. And you're obviously welcome back anytime you'd like. Anytime you're in the mood to talk some Doctor Who, or just want to catch up with me or Jesse or whomever, you're obviously welcome anytime.
Cool.
You have some great insights, and I love that. Otherwise, everybody, we're still looking for some co-hosts because, hey, we're still trying to plug some gaps. So with that in mind, so if you'd
mind the gap.
Exactly, mind the gap as we go into the underground. So if you want to do that, drop us a line at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com, and we'll try and hook you up. Talk some Doctor Who. All right. So everybody, thank you for listening. Come on back for the Lazarus Experiment. Jesse Jackson's back, and talk some more David Tennant.
Say hi to Jesse for me.
Oh, I will, and I'll tell him you're looking for him. It's like, I will. But thank you, Christine. We really appreciate it, and I hope you had fun.
Thank you, Charles. I did.
I had a lot of fun talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you. I think you're great. And welcome back anytime. So everybody, come on back next time, right here. Next Up Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.